Okay, we're winding down in Chapter 8 in Algebra Grade 9. This is Section 8.3, utilizing distributive property. In algebra, the first two questions are true and false. So what it really says is this equation, this expression here, the same as this expression here? So what it's actually asking you, if you use distributive property and you expand it, well, negative 2.5 times 4x, negative 2.5 times 4 is 10. So it would be a negative 10x when I expand that side. And negative 2.5 times negative 2, remember, you have to expand it fully, would be a positive 5, and therefore it's false. And what this person, the reason why this is a question, is that a lot of people, when they're given a distributive property, for whatever reason, only expand the first part and they don't expand the second part. In question 2, when you multiply x plus 1 over 2, so x plus 1 over 2 is really the same thing as half of x plus 1, or x plus 1, half of x plus 1. All of these three things are the same thing. So if I multiply half of x plus 1 by 8, what this question is checking for is, do you know how to multiply it? There's two ways you can do it. The first way is simply multiply the numerator. So multiply 8 by x plus 1. Put your monomial first, so 8 times x plus 1 over 2 times 1 will be 8x plus 8 over 2. And once you get it down to this, you must divide all the terms by 2. So 8x divided by 2 is 4x, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. And since that is what the other side says, the answer is true. The other way you could have done that is by taking your x plus 1 over 2, and when you multiply it by 8, when multiplying fractions, we learned that you can cross-reduce. So 8 over 2 will reduce down to 4 over 1. And now when you multiply the numerators, and you could write it like this if you wanted. You could write it like that, but the better way to write it is, of course, putting your monomial first. It looks a lot better when it's like that. And that way, when you expand using distributive property, you're still going to get that. Question 3. Now we get into just solving equations using distributive property. And what this says is 3 multiplied by x minus 12.5 is equal to negative 3.1. So on an algebraic scale, if I was to draw an x, and rather than draw negative 12.5 integer tiles, I'm just going to put a negative 12.5 constant. I'm just going to write it out. So that would be x minus 12.5 equals negative 3.41. But when you multiply it by 3, this idea of distributive property, multiplying it by 3, or this 3 outside here, what that means is you have 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. So 3 groups of x minus 12.5, which is visually represented here. 3 groups of x minus 12.5 is equal to negative 3.41. So when we have that, there are 2 ways we can solve it. The first way is to just say, well, I would have 3 x's, and I'd have minus 37.5 is equal to negative 3.41. And all I did there was expand using distributive property, or thought of it like that and just told what that side is. And when you do that, you could then add 37.5 to both sides. It's giving you 3x is equal to, my brain is definitely not capable of this type of thinking this morning. So 3.41. Now if you're going to do it with positive and negatives, you can put your positive and negative symbol in, and combine that with positive 37.5. When you do so, it does the math for you. And then when you divide both sides by 3, divide that by 3, you get x. Is that right? Is that the right answer? Did I make a mistake? Okay. What did I tell you to change? Oh, I did tell you to change the number, didn't I? 2.1. Poop it down. Well, either way, that's the answer. And if you changed it to 3.21, you got a terminating decimal as opposed to it. Now, alternatively, what could you have done instead? You could have taken your equation, and instead of saying 3 groups of it, if you divide this by 3, instead of having 3 groups, you will have 1 group, and if you divide one side by 3, you divide the other, and so on and so forth. But since it's a repeating decimal, I won't go any further with this, but you get the idea. So question 4, I changed to a different number. I forgot I changed 3 as well, so I didn't write it down. But anyway, this is the question. We will ignore this one up here, but the process is the same. So remember, you have 2 options. You can expand using distributive property, meaning use the arrows here, or you can divide both sides by 6, depending on what you did. Just a quick survey. How many divided both sides by 6? How many expanded using distributive property? So we have the majority of people dividing both sides by 6. So I will divide both sides by 6. And instead of having 6 groups of 15 cents plus a mystery number, I'm going to have 1 group of 15 cents. Plus another little bit of money is equal to whatever 7.44 divided by 6 is, and that is 1.24. Now, if you think about this, contextually, this could mean 6 people gave you 15 cents plus an unknown sum of money. Everybody had something that they gave you. So all 6 people gave you 15 cents plus a little bit more money. So by dividing both sides by 6, what you essentially did is you said what one person gave you. Instead of having the sum of all 6 people, you have what one person gave you, which is $1.24. Subtract that 15 cents from both sides, and you would realize that that mystery amount of money was $1.09. Right? So 6 people gave you $1.15 plus $1.09. 15 cents, excuse me, plus $1.09, and altogether you would have $7.44. How much did one person give you? Or how much was the mystery number? It would be $1.09. Question 10, we get into our fraction sense. So this time the algebra, the x is on this side, which means I'm going to have to get rid of it. Now there are 2 ways to do it. First way is you could multiply both sides of the equation by 5. How many did that? How many realize that there are multiple fractions in this equation? And going back to what you learned in chapter 8.1, if you multiply both sides by a common multiple of all of the denominators within the equation, you will create an equation without fractions. Yeah? Okay. So what number will we multiply both sides by? 10. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a multiply by 10. Over here I'm going to put a multiply by 10. I'm going to then cross reduce. Now, this negative sign, you keep it wherever you want. I'm just going to slap it up there. 10 over 10 is going to reduce to 1 over 1, which means this side will become negative 7. This will cross reduce. 10 over 5 will reduce down to 2 over 1. And when you multiply x plus 3 by 2, put your monomial first, your binomial second, and 2 times x plus 3 will be 2x plus 6. Most people just get 2x plus 3. They forget to fully expand it. Make sure you rewrite it so you don't make that mistake. Now that we have that, we have a grade 8 question. And x will equal negative 6.5. Or, because it was started off as a fraction, x equals negative 6.5. Your next question, if you had to multiply both sides by a number, which one would you do? J8. Wa is not a number, it's a sound. If you multiply both sides by 6, you will create an equation that does not have any fractions in it. However, I'm going to show you something. Either one of these ways to write the numerator, 2 times x minus 3 or 2x minus 6, both ways express the same amount. So if it was me, I would simplify distributive property in that numerator first. And here's why. Because now when I multiply it by 6, if I multiply it by 6 and multiply it by 6, when I cross reduce, I get 2. And this will become 2 times 2x minus 6 is equal to 3. You see that? But if I didn't expand that and just left it as that, when I put multiply by 6 here, what you end up with is 2 times x minus 3. That's okay to do, but some people get lost there. So 2 times 2 times x minus 3 will be the same thing. So this here is the same thing as 4 times x minus 3, right? Which would be 4x minus 12. You're going to get the same thing down here either way, right? But make sure when you do it, you either cross-reduce and understand that it's going to be 2 times x minus 3, or expand your distributive property first and then multiply it by 2. Once you do that, you're going to add 12 to both sides. You get 4x equals 15. Divide by 4. And it was a fraction to start, so you have to keep it as a fraction to end. That's going to be 3 3/4. Did I make a mistake there? Is that good? Anyone else get that? Question 7. The average of two numbers is 3.04. Did I change this, or was that worked out? If one of the numbers is 3.4, what's the other? So remember, if it's two numbers, you would have x plus y divided by 2, because the first number, x is going to be the first number, y is going to be equal to the second number. And if you add those two numbers together and divide by 2, you would get the average of x plus y. The average. So since we know one of the numbers is 3.04, I can either change x to be 3.04 or y to be 3.04. I'm going to choose y simply because variable plus constant is something I see a lot more. But it's okay to have 3.04 plus y or x plus 0 or 3.04. So I'm just going to change that out. The first number we know, 3.04. And we also know the average. Oh no, I got it backwards, don't I? The average, I got it backwards. Yeah, this is supposed to be, sorry. The first number is 3.4. So the average is this. So I just put my substituted the parts I know, and now I have one variable left. Double both sides. So you get x plus 3.4 equals 6.08. Subtract the constant on both sides. X will equal, brain not working, 6.08. Oh, that's not an 8, that's a 7. Plus 3.4 negative equals 2.68. So therefore, since it's a story problem, the second number is 2.68. Question 8 says, Brooke bought 4 boxes of Kraft Dinner. She used coupons to reduce the price of each by 40 cents. So the first thing we want to do is say that x equals the regular price, because we're looking for the original price or the regular price. First thing we do is define the variable. So if that's the regular price, this is going to be the sale price, because it's going to be reduced by 40 cents per box. Okay? And if she bought 4 boxes of these, we're going to use that expression to represent 4 boxes of saled Kraft Dinner. And it's 260, right? So 4 boxes of Kraft Dinner that we've reduced by 40 cents each is going to be $2.60. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by 4. Okay, so instead of saying 4 boxes cost me $2.60, by dividing both sides by 4, I'm going to figure out what 1 box cost me. So $2.60 divided by 4 means that 1 box of sale priced was 65 cents. But of course, if I take that coupon off and I put it back on, so I add the coupon price back on, I'd have x equals $1.05. Therefore, since x equals regular price, therefore, the regular price is $1.05. Somewhere there's a decimal there. Each.